The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. And also, we do this thing on LinkedIn called Advertising News You Need to Know in 60 Seconds or Less. Daily videos, short form with a fun whiteboard where Jack and I are breaking down what's happening in the industry. You got to be following us on LinkedIn and turn on post notifications there for all of that. It'll really help you get smarter and nerd up and break into the industry. But today, we're joined by Adam Weil, Director of Partnerships at White Rabbit Group. White Rabbit Group is a full stack development agency specializing in custom websites, web apps, and mobile apps for creative agencies and studios. He's going to talk about how they're helping build these high quality development services that empower agencies to deliver outstanding work without the headache of managing in-house technical teams. What does this mean? So if you want to break into this industry, let's say you're an art director or copywriter, you come up with a really good concept, the client loves it, life is good, but that concept involves creating a website or a new app. Your agency might not have the expertise to make it. So you have to go to someone external, and White Rabbit is the group to go to. So that gives a little context for you all there. It's super important to know how this industry works. So we're going to explore Adam's journey. Entrepreneurial. I love it. He launched a t-shirt brand in college, and he started to run his own design agency, and he eventually merged with White Rabbit Group. So he breaks down the do's and don'ts of forming strong agency partnerships, really good for the account executives out there, really good for the new business professionals out there on how this stuff all works. He'll talk about why quality assurance is non-negotiable and what separates a great development team from the rest. So I'll tease that one thing. He talks about having a CRM in your life and learning CRM skills at, customer relationship management, like a Salesforce, a HubSpot. I know I get kind of grossed out by it, but after this episode, we started implementing it with breaking and entering, and it's been a game changer. So really good lessons there. You're going to love all the takeaways. Now let's get into it. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Adam Weil, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Amazing. Where are you calling in from today, sir?
I'm out in San Diego, California.
Oh, that's got to be the best place in the U.S.
I love it. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a little cloudy right now, but it's kind of how it is these days, and then it burns off by noon.
Okay. Well, what's your favorite spot to eat out there for anybody that wants to visit? What's right off the dome here?
Yeah, right off the dome. I would say I'm in Little Italy. So if you like ramen, there's a great spot called Rocky. Really, really good ramen. It's right up the street from us here. And then if you like sushi, I guess I'm a big Asian food fan, but there's a sushi spot called Azuki, which is over by the park up here, and it's fabulous. So those are two spots I'd definitely go.
Amazing. And we're here to talk about you. You're a partner and you lead partnerships at White Rabbit Group. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, my title these days is Director of Partnerships. I have sort of a marketing and design background, but these days I'm more on the business development side of things.
Amazing. So I need a bunch of help with that. We should definitely stay connected with getting partnerships, how that works, new business, but maybe we can glean some insights to our listeners out there of what exactly you do about White Rabbit Group and all your advice along the way. I think that's how we do this, how you broke into this business, and what you would do differently if you were to break in today. But first and foremost, some quick clarification. This is not a traditional ad agency. So can we talk about what White Rabbit Group is today?
Yeah, so White Rabbit Group is a full stack development agency. So all we do is build custom websites, web apps, and mobile apps, primarily for other agencies and creative studios. We found a real solid niche there where there's thousands of agencies across the United States that have these wonderful relationships with these clients and are supporting them on the design, creative, marketing side of things. But when those clients need real technical solutions, a lot of times those marketing and creative agencies don't have that talent in-house. And so we found that as a real specific niche we can go after and really serve and empower those agencies to provide those services, those technical services to their clients, and in a long-term format, and provide value to them, make those clients more sticky for them, and continue to get referrals through that quality work.
Fantastic. Thank you for that high level overview. We will get into that further throughout the rest of the episode. But first,
Yeah.
I would love to get into your background, how you became the director of partnerships at White Rabbit Group, and what drew you to this role in the world of advertising and tech collaboration, sir.
Yeah, so I'll go kind of way back. Just to, I know a lot of listeners are kind of maybe on the starting point of their journey. So I'll go way back to college, and then I'll quickly kind of speed up to where I'm at today. So I originally was studying communications in college, and as well as business. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I've always kind of been drawn to design. And so I started a t-shirt company with my friend in college. It was never successful. Don't even look it up. But at the time, it was an outlet for me to draw. I wasn't really a tech guy. I didn't really know how to use a computer super well, but I would draw, and we needed to have those drawings converted in a digital format for the silk screening for the t-shirts. And so through that process, I learned that, okay, I can scan this drawing on the computer, or, on the machine, the scanner, and then it would upload it into Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. And then I would trace over it, and I taught myself how to design with those tools, with the Adobe Suite tools. And so fast forward a few years, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I hired a consultant that was really specialized with teaching you how to start an agency. And there's obviously lots of different agencies you can do. There's web design agencies, there's PR agencies, there's social media agencies. And so when he was describing the options where you could go, I was reflecting on, okay, well, I have this skill with design on the computer. Maybe I'll do web design. And I loved it. I totally loved it. And so I taught myself. I was self-taught. And
What
over
did you
time,
teach yourself? What were some of those tools?
Yeah, so it was mostly on the design side. It was mostly Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Figma, Sketch, all those tools, they were not around back then. So it was mostly Photoshop that I would design the website in.
And how are you learning, like, self-taught? What does this mean? How do you self-teach yourself? Now you can watch YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. How did you do this?
Yeah, it was extremely inefficient. I would stay up till sometimes sunrise, just clicking tools. Part of it was I was so, like, time would just fly by. It was one of those experiences that
Flow.
you get into flow state, and I really enjoyed it. And so through that process, I just experimented endlessly.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, years later, I learned, like, oh, wow, that's definitely the most inefficient way to do something. But
hey, those
I
skills
hacked
that
it.
you learned from that trial and error and those long hours and that flow state probably stuck with you. You probably still use a lot of those tools today. I'm not sure if the software has changed a lot. I'm sure it has, but there's probably those fundamentals that you can't really replicate on that self-discovery there.
Totally. Well, and it's like when you try to drive somewhere and you get lost. Sometimes by getting lost, you learn new routes and new things. So it was every time I just try something new, I was learning something and taken away from it. So it was a great process. And I never really learned the technical side of it. I never learned to code. I was always so focused on the design side that I was always hiring contractors. I hired contractors. I tried to bring it in-house. I tried outsourcing to, local friends and family. I tried outsourcing it to different countries, Eastern Europe, South America, India. I mean, you name it. I really tried. And I went through a dozen different development companies over the years. And eventually I found White Rabbit. They reached out. I think it was like a cold email. And it took them about a year to work with me because I was so burned working with these contractors and these other development teams, because there's so many things that can go wrong in the development process of a web project. Eventually they worked I decided to hire them. It went really well. I never hired another development team after that. I got super close with the CEO. We just totally clicked. At the time, they were small. And long story short, they ended up acquiring my agency to bring those design skills in-house, because at the time, White Rabbit was all dev. They didn't have any design. So I joined as a partner. I'm one of 3 partners there. And I'm really passionate about the value that we provide to agencies.
Yeah.
That over the years, I've been there about 5 years now, I've slowly started to transition into more of kind of business development, thinking how can we get more people to know about us and then bring more awareness to what we do.
So tell me more about the agency that you started. You had the design skills, the Photoshop skills. Like, what were you doing? How were you servicing clients before White Rabbit came into the picture?
Yeah, it really started with web design. That was pretty much it. And at the time, this is back in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So Yelp was starting to really become very popular as a platform that people would find different service providers. And so we were kind of early to the game, created a great profile there, and got lots of business through Yelp, and just, built our reputation up that way. And over time, I made my best friend a business partner, and he was more on the marketing side. So he would do SEO, social media marketing, PPC, things like that.
Got it. And then the problem was the lack of knowledge that you might have had with the technical side. Then White Rabbit came in as that solution after rounds and rounds of different vendors. You're tired of it. You're burnt out by all the issues from those different vendors. But White Rabbit came in, saved the day, and then they ended up wanting to work with you directly because they acquired the agency. But they probably saw the future with you and what you were up to. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. And I was always trying to create something really special. I didn't want to just take a template and just kind of cram some content into it and call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to create something that I was very proud of. I was a designer. I was kind of an artist, so I wanted it to be something that the client was super proud of, that they wanted to show to the world, like, hey, this is our company, this is our business. And to do that, you need to build custom development. And so that's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to White Rabbit, is because they were all about pixel perfection. They had a dedicated QA team. So they were all about that craft as well, which I really appreciated.
And then today, the role now is blending creative and technical expertise to deliver great projects, award-winning projects. So from your perspective, what sets your team apart today when partnering with advertising and creative studios?
So many things. Yeah, it starts with our estimate team. So when an agency comes to us, it's typically because they have a client that's interested in, redesigning their website, or they have some sort of web app idea that they want to build, or maybe a mobile app, or maybe they just need to have a couple new systems talk to each other. Like the CRM needs to be better integrated with the website through form fills or different things like that. So they come to us with this request and they don't know how much it's going to cost. They don't know what the next steps are in a lot of cases. And so having our dedicated estimate team in-house is awesome, because we can ask them the right questions up front. We even have a set of template questions that they can ask their client depending on the type of project. So we just give them a lot of tools right out of the box, and we're there like as an extension of their team. So every agency has a dedicated technical PM that really becomes like an extension of their team. They can jump into their project management software, all their existing tools, whether it's Slack or Teams. And so if they have quick questions, they can talk to that PM and get that feedback in real time, which is super valuable. All of our TPMs are stateside here. And so they get an estimate, a detailed line item breakdown. And from there, they can easily close that project. They can pass it along to the client. They can say, hey, this is what it's going to take. They can go in confidently and close that project. And again, they have that TPM supporting them. And further down the process, we're about 100 full-time employees. And we're about 80% dev. So we have over 80 engineers.
Wow.
There's a ton of different tech stacks that we specialize, a lot of different CMSs, a lot of different backend technologies. We do iOS and Android native, as well as hybrid apps. So it's not like we're just giving them a developer. They have a whole team that they have access to. So whether one client of that agency asks for a WordPress project, or another client asks for a mobile app, or a specific React project, a front end project, we have the team to be able to support them so they can say yes, capture more business, and make those clients more sticky. And then the last thing I'll say is having that dedicated QA team, as I mentioned. We have a team that's in-house using real devices, that's testing everything like super rigorously, so that when we pass it over to that agency, they can feel good passing to that client, because that's kind of the last impression that they have at the end of the project. And you don't want to crush it on like the sales side of things and design and strategy and all that, to just hand them over something that doesn't quite look that good or is a little buggy. You want it to feel polished. And so that's super important for us, is that QA at the end there.
I love that. I mean, as somebody that just built I revamped our branding and our website with breaking and entering, all of this sounds amazing. Like, we did it like really, really scrappy. It was glitchy, but it was like a 2-week timeline, but we got it done. And I'm sure it's still not perfect, but that sounds like incredible, like to have all of those features. So how do you get the word out? Like, what's your day-to-day look like to get these relationships with agencies and studios, and what makes for a successful partnership?
Yeah, so we're super fortunate. We've been able to have a relationship with agencies early on that have stuck with us for since the beginning. So as an agency, we're not always chasing those. Sure, we're chasing one-time projects, but for us, when we have one agency as a partner, the beautiful thing is it's repeat business. They come back over and over. So so we don't have the pressure to just like a branding agency would, right, to just go and get something new every single month. So that really helps. So for us, it's all about the relationships. We do some outbound as well. We do some emails. We're a part of some agency networking groups. So those are places where we can connect with other agencies and build those relationships. One thing I say, it's all about trust and timing. So as long as they know about us and there's trust there, and whenever that time happens, whether it's in a week from now or a year from now, hopefully they think of us and our brand makes a big enough impression.
Gotcha. Yeah. If you do good work, hopefully you'll get those repeat customers. I love that. And like, what type of size agencies does it vary? I'm assuming like from small independent to some larger ones. What's the remit look like?
Yeah, I would say it does widely vary. Typically our sweet spot is like 10 to 200 employees.
Nice.
Once they start going above 200 employees, chances are they've started to build out a really robust development team in-house, and there isn't quite as much of a fit there. Having said that, we work with some agencies that are over 1,000 employees, and whenever there's specific tech stacks that their team just can't handle, they call us. But then on the other end of the spectrum, there's some teams that are literally a handful of employees, and they just have really good relationships with these clients, these enterprise clients. Which, maybe to go a step further on that question, I would say that it really depends on the clients that the agency has. So a good benchmark that we've figured out over the years is if the client has about 100 employees, or they're doing about 10 million a year or more in revenue, that client has the marketing budget earmarked every year to be able to spend on a quality website or digital experience, because they need to be competitive with their market. So they have to say, hey, we're going to take this percentage of our revenue and dedicate it towards this. And those are the types of clients that can afford having a dedicated technical project manager, a dedicated QA team. Otherwise you might have to be a little scrappier.
Right. Like we had to be.
Right.
For now.
Right.
But I wanted also, this next question draws back to earlier in your career. Are there other companies taking a similar approach, like the vendors that you worked with when you had your agency? There was a lot of issues there. Like, so today, are there companies taking a similar approach or do you see White Rabbit Group as filling out a distinct gap in this industry? What do you think makes this model challenging why is it challenging for others to replicate?
Yeah. I hate that answer where it's like, oh no, we're one of a kind. There's no one else like us. But I feel like that is the real answer here. Maybe the closest competitor would be a staffing agency, but even that is a very different type of business model because a staffing agency will just give you a developer. But and we thought about that model, but there's lots of problems with it. The problem is that developer is not necessarily going to be the best communicator, and you don't want them communicating. You want them doing code. So that can be a little bit challenging, and developers tend not to be the best communicators. So when it comes to getting updates and knowing where things are at, you can feel a little bit in the dark if you're just, working with a staffing agency with one developer. The other side of it is that developer is not going to QA their own work. They're going to try, but they're not a QA expert. And so you need a dedicated QA team to really, QA that work. So that's a similar type of business to us. But I really don't see anyone doing it quite like us, because I'll tell you a little bit more about our team structure. We have, like I mentioned, all of our TPMs, technical project managers, are stateside. Our headquarters is in Seattle, but we got rid of our office after COVID and we're all distributed. So Washington, California, Oregon, Texas. And then our co-founder, Abhilash, manages our India location, which is in Kerala. And we also have Bogota, Colombia, which is a little bit more on time zone. But everyone across our entire company is 100% in-house, full-time. We never contract any work out anytime, because our agencies are not just outsourcing the development, they're outsourcing their reputation. Going back to the team structure, having that technical PM here gives them that support where they can get that real-time communication and understand what's going on without waiting for a team member that's, on another part of the world, right? Having said that, we also have those team members around the world where there's lower cost of labor. So we can have a blended rate, which is affordable enough for that agency to consistently work with us and still mark it up and make a very healthy profit. So that, I think, is very unique. It's difficult, very, very difficult to maintain a cohesive company culture across those different time zones, across those different countries and cultures. And I think that's one of the things that we've done exceptionally well. So I really don't think there's a competitor that's done it quite like us.
I love it. I love it. No, the blended rate is important, and high quality product, and then high quality communication along the way, and then that quality assurance is a winning combo there. So I think, like, getting into this all, like, what advice would you give to those looking to build or grow partnerships in the advertising and tech spaces? Like, you seem to know what you're doing very well, and it's growing. You said over 100 full-time employees. So you've grown this business. For the partnership people out there, or aspiring partnership people out there, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So I'll say that we're in interesting times right now where I see a lot of full service agencies, struggling because they don't know how to differentiate themselves. A lot of times there's a lot of people in this industry because there's a very small barrier to entry. Like, anybody can throw a website up and say they're an expert, right? And so I think what's going to happen, and I think what people should focus on, is figuring out a niche where it's a specific industry, specific type of client, where they just absolutely own it for that group. Now, this is nothing new. Everyone kind of knows this. But having said that, I think it's very difficult to have everything in-house, especially if you're starting out, if you want to have your own agency. And so you're going to need to rely on partners. It's just inevitable, especially early on. And those partnerships, those relationships can make or break your agency. I know it firsthand because at WebSauce, my first agency, some of the development teams I was working with fell short, right? The QA wasn't good. I was kind of in the dark. So therefore, my client's now kind of in the dark. And it created poor experiences, and I lost out on referrals. And unfortunately, some of those relationships were never, fully repaired. So it makes the difference, especially in the long term, when you think about kind of the branches of a tree, right? If you damage a client relationship, you lose all where those branches go and the extra limbs that come off of that, being the referrals and the additional revenue. So you have to have good partners. And I think you have to have a process around identifying good partners. It's not enough to just have a good conversation like this and go, oh yeah, you guys are awesome. I like your vibes. Let's roll. That's too risky. It's so important. So there's a couple steps and I'll share those. One is know how the team is structured. So are they in-house or are they contractors? That's a big thing to know, because if they're outsourcing to contractors and you're outsourcing to them, there's inherently a lot more risk there. So you really want to make sure your partners have people in-house if possible. If they're contractors, that's okay, but I would try to speak with those contractors as well and have a relationship there and know, are these flighty people or are they reliable? So number one, verify the team structure. Number two, understand the team locations. If these team members are in Eastern Europe or in India, right, those are 9, 12 hours difference in time zone. It's very difficult to connect with them. It's fine, you can manage projects like that, but you have to know that up front and have expectations of, all right, I need to connect with this person before 9 a.m. Otherwise, I don't talk with them at all before the next day. Is that going to work with me long term? Number three, I would definitely get insight on their quality control processes. How are they doing QA? How do they ensure that everything is going to get delivered on time, on budget, pixel perfect, whatever it may be? You may need partners for other things besides web development, but I think this still applies. What are their processes around quality control? And if they kind of fumble around that, that's a red flag. You want to make sure they're confident in that. The fourth thing, look for honesty. That's so important. Are they saying that they can do everything? Like, ask them what's something they would definitely say no to. See how they answer that question. Do they kind of go, well, we could pretty much do anything? Anybody that says that's a real problem, because no one's good at everything. So we really want to try to identify if they're being truthful with you all the way through. Number five, I would ask for references. Nothing like talking to people and then have questions going into that meeting so you can really kind of drill down and know who those references are. They're, make sure that you understand what project they worked on together and what that experience looked like. Last thing, if you decide to work with someone, you decide to pull the trigger and you're moving forward, anytime there's issues early on, over communicate, address them as soon as possible. You want to make sure if it's not a good fit, you can pull the plug and go to a plan B. You want to make sure you're addressing those issues early. Don't wait too long, because otherwise it's just going to be a disaster. And again, you can't have an unhappy client, because that's going to cost you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah,
so those are all the processes.
Love that. So if you were to talk to a young Adam today who was just, maybe doing that t-shirt business, what would you tell a young Adam today about, being successful in a career? What skills to learn, what hobbies to pick up, what to avoid? What would you tell?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that come to mind. One is just, getting your body and mind right every single day. Like every day now I work out for about an hour in the mornings, which to me 10 years ago, 15 years ago would have sounded like a lot to start doing. Something our CEO says is start with a mile, just run a mile every day. It takes 10 minutes. And that's what I started doing. That really helped me. That was great advice for me. So just get your body moving early on in the morning. I just feel like it loosens up the brain a little bit, and you're more alert and ready to go to start the day. The other things I would say are around relationships. So one thing that I would have done back in the day is I wish I was more engaged with social media. I'm one that's naturally kind of averse to social media. I don't engage a whole lot. I would have liked to have developed that habit a little bit younger of just putting myself out there a little bit more, getting used to putting myself out there a little bit more. You never know who's going to see it, who's going to pass something along, and just, sharing my journey type of things. I think there's a lot of good that would have come of that if I would have started that and built momentum over the years. And then the third thing I would say, man, I wish I understood CRMs more when I was younger. I wish I would have started my own personal CRM. Everything in life and business, it's about relationships.
Yeah.
And I just wish I would have, first of all, just taken a CRM course.
I need to do that. I suck at this.
Dude, it's not that, it literally takes like an hour. It'll blow your mind.
What software do you use?
HubSpot.
It doesn't, and I was told it doesn't really matter which one as long as you stick with it and you use it.
That's it. That's it.
But
I'm most
man,
familiar
it's so
with HubSpot.
intimidating, that software, to me. And the thing about like labeling and like following up and stuff, like it's just like a part of my brain that I don't like tapping into. It's like budgeting. I feel like I suck at that too. So
Yeah.
but I work out every day, no matter what. So it's a
all
different
habits.
discipline. I just have to get into it, and I've got to
Yeah.
start.
And once you build that habit, I mean, maybe it takes a month or two of like, all right, I sent this email. I need to tag this as like follow up in a little bit.
Yeah,
And it only takes a few seconds. Once you develop that and you do it for like 60 days or so,
you get in
then
the
it's
zone.
like, that's it. You're good for the rest of your life.
Yeah, just like working out, just like, meditating, going on walks, anything like that. It's just a discipline that, yeah, that's a big takeaway. So
Yeah.
that's a huge takeaway. I think everybody should think about that. Like noting down who you talk to in a CRM, just having those emails, and then when to follow up. It's, good job search advice too.
Yeah. Even like people outside of work too. I mean, I don't know. I think there's not, it sounds kind of robotic, like having a personal CRM, but I don't know, man. How many relationships do you want to have? How deep do you want those relationships to go?
You can write down like what are their kids' names, when are their birthdays. You can then follow up when it is the birthday. You'll never miss a card or anything like that. I suck at relationships, so
there you go.
Yeah, it goes a long way. I love it. Well, Adam, how can people reach out to you and see some of the work that you guys have done?
Yeah, check out our website, whiterabbit.group. They can check out some of our case studies on there. We're actually in the process of rebuilding our own website.
Oh,
Cannot wait to share. It is going to be awesome. We're going to be throwing it on some award submissions and seeing what happens with it. But
like a
that's
Webby
coming in a couple months. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So
awesome.
that's where I check us out. And then also I'm on LinkedIn. So Adam Weil is my name. Just look me up. I think it's LinkedIn/Adam-Weil. I'm on there these days a lot.
I love it. I love it. Well, amazing job. Is there anything else that you want to get out there to the world that we didn't cover, Adam?
No, I think it's been a great conversation, and hopefully people got some value out of it.
Well done. Well done. Thank you again, sir.
Thanks, Gino.